Hi, Smart Community friends, and congratulations to our listeners in Gibraltar. You are amongst the month's top city for the most episode downloads. I'm back with another bonus episode of the Smart Community podcast, sharing various guest answers to the question, where to next for smart cities and communities? And this time, I'm sharing with you the answers from these guests. Saskia Beer from episode 255, Islam Bouzguenda from episode 256, Renato De Castro from episode 257, and finally, Jess Coldrey from episode 258. Some themes that come through in the guest answers are around better structure and trust in communities, smart city initiatives, and the need for smart city cultures embedded into communities. All of our guests agree that creating and embedding a culture of smart communities is so important for the future, whether it be through the STEM sector, community initiatives, or planning. Having more purpose and structure around what communities are doing in smart cities will not only create better communities, it will also create a better sense of community, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic, and this is crucial for community well-being. As Jess Coldrey says, I think it's going to be the role of our public spaces once people start returning to them to create that sense of community again and build it from the ground up. As always, we hope you enjoy listening to this episode as much as we enjoyed making it.
Welcome to the smart community, smart regions, smart towns, and smart cities. It's where we live, work, and play. With smart communities, the future starts today. Big data, smart mobility, emerging trends galore. The Smart Community Podcast is what you're looking for.
Where to next for smart communities?
Well, I think the next step is probably spreading around, becoming more common, becoming more acknowledged as a serious organizational form, including financial and governance models in many cases when you're really talking about, for example, when you really talk about urban development, at one point it's about ownership, it's about real estate, it's about infrastructure, it's about investment and who invests, who's reaping the benefits. So I think that, not that I'm in favor of formalizing everything, because I think there again, I'm thinking in layers a lot. So I think there should be like an informal layer that's just really open and inviting to everybody. And that makes it really, also fun and personal to keep meeting each other. But there might be the need for more like slightly more formally organized layers in the community to make sure that they can really organize concrete projects, whether they're big or small, and they need like financing and governance models to fix that. And I think that also the private sector and especially public sector, local governments or other governmental organizations, institutions, that they commit to that and they become somehow a part of that. So I think this real like adoption, acknowledging and committing to this community and becoming a part of it, maybe even when you only play a modest role in the community, I think there is an important next step for communities to become smarter, to become more actionable, become more sustainable. And then I think we will start to see how powerful they can be in solving like real challenges. So it's not a nice to have, it's not fluffy, soft value, but it's like real, there's some real hardcore urban development value in there as well. I mean, not that that's the goal, but I mean, it should not be underestimated how powerful it can be. And I think that's the next step for smart communities, to really take root in a much more serious way.
Yes, and powerful way. And I agree with you. I think there's like an informality, or like there's a layer where we want everyone to be able to get involved. They don't have to know the process, etc., etc. And I think that's really key and really important. But I also think you need that governance, and you use the word, and I love that word, because otherwise things don't, they might happen for a short while, but sustainable, right? It's not just obviously the environmental component of it as well, but you need all those other things to make it sustainable and moving forward, to make that real impact. And I think that's really, really important. And that's how we get these smart communities to be real communities and actually start, already continue to impact people's lives.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a certain quality there, I guess, that if you somehow, for example, a local government with a urban development challenge, and you build a local community, but then you kind of create a separate circuit of planning and decision making and making agreements only with the project developers, and you betray the community in a way. You don't take them seriously. It's a bit too non-committal. And I think if you really keep working with that community, then you will see how much power there is. Sorry, it was a bit of a repetition maybe, but I thought that this equality.
I think that's really important, because what you brought in there is trust. And I think that's what's so key. But maybe we don't talk about that enough, that, that's how shit happens, right? Like when you actually trust somebody, you think about it. Like if someone, even like, I don't know, a stupid example is like on LinkedIn, there'll be people on LinkedIn that I'll trust wholeheartedly, and I will know that I can engage with them and trust their posts, so like their post and comment on their post without actually like properly reading the whole thing, right? But you built that because but you're like, oh, I trust that person. Cool. Yep. We'll read this later, or whatever the case may be. It's the same with the community and the government and the stakeholders. If they go, oh, cool. Yeah, I can trust the community, the local government, that I have my best interests at heart. Yes, I'm going to engage, and yes, I'm going to look at this further. But if I don't trust them, I'm just going to negative, no engagement, whatever. So that building that trust, just so important.
Definitely, yeah, and that's why you need to be like structurally engaged. You need to be consistent. All these things, it needs to build over time. People don't engage overnight, and then one day you have nothing, and the next day you have a smart community. I mean, this years, yeah.
Absolutely, it's a journey, and it's an incremental change, and it doesn't. Yeah, it's not this big thing that all of a sudden is there. It's all these tiny little steps that don't seem to matter, in inverted commas, over time. Oh, well, is that really important? Yeah, it is, because it's building. So where to next for smart cities and communities?
Well, I think we need more initiatives. We need more initiatives related to smart communities. And we need to prioritize that into the city's agendas. So, cities, they are, as I mentioned before, always showing off their abilities in smart cities, being a smart city, etc., using trendiest technologies. However, I think we should emphasize also the initiatives that are related more to smart communities, or the social aspects of a smart city.
Yeah, so hopefully thinking about, it's not, when we're saying smart community projects, it's not just digital stuff, right? It's really impacting the community and improving the quality of life for, the people with the most at stake, or, different communities, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So where to next for smart cities and communities?
Yeah, I think that we are going to see the rise of protagonism from different stakeholders. I think society now is organizing themselves in a different way, and also private sector has understood that it's just not a matter of selling, but it's a matter of purpose. What is the purpose behind what you're doing, and how you can benefit other stakeholders in what you're delivering? The consequence is selling, but the main idea will not be this. And frankly speaking, again, I'm in the market now, Middle East. The Middle East probably is the hottest market in the world for urbanization, let's say like this. We have a lot of green field operations here. To take Saudi Arabia, for example, we are talking about $500 billion investment. I mean, we have 17 mega projects there. And again, I see even in these projects that are very, let's say, oriented to infrastructure, because they are greenfield projects, I see the rise of these stocks, the rise of community building. I came to the region to work for Abu Dhabi government. And imagine, I'm in a country now that 90% of the the inhabitants of the population of the country are foreigners. So, I mean, for every 10 people, 9 are foreigners and 1 is a local, someone native. In the government, we always discuss citizens and residents. For them, there is a big difference between citizens and residents. They want to put together these two words as we do normally. For us, citizens are people that are the people that are living the city and benefits from the city and interacts with the city. But here, still not. And even here, we are very, very, very worried about building community. So can you imagine? And building community in a city like Barcelona has a sense, but here we have already sub-communities inside the city. We have the Indian population, that's 60% of the population of the country. Then we have the Philippines, and then we have the Europeans. And so how to build a community, how to create a smart city in Dubai, in a place that we already have the tribes inside very well established. So this is a big challenge. And before, this was not probably taking as seriously as it has been taken now. Or I'm getting a lot of, let's say, requests for consulting or advising. We are now in an advisory company. We are even not doing consultants. We are doing advisory. People need to understand what a smart city is, and people need to have neutral professionals handling the interaction between the stakeholders, harmonizing this interaction. It's not just a matter of I'm government, you are the seller, and you sell, I buy. No, we should have this harmonization, and that's exactly what we're doing here. So you see, and for us, I mean, a lot of people that are listening to us are people that are somehow connected to the smart city environment, and I see a very bright future for professionals on smart cities because the world needs to understand the concept still, and the concept is just, it's a live concept. It's just not a concept. It's not a final destination. It's a journey. So they will somehow need support for the journey, you know.
Where to next for smart communities?
I think, you know, in terms of what we're talking about with interdisciplinary thinking and having new perspectives, I think that the building inclusion in the STEM sector with, you know, people from different backgrounds, more women, I think it's going to drive a lot of innovation, particularly in the sustainability space. And I'm really excited to see how the role of big data and smart sensors can actually be leveraged to help with community outcomes and, you know, not just asset management, but really learning about who people are and using that in a way to help them get what they want. And I know that sounds quite conceptual, but I think, you know, it's going to be a great resource for really helping improve living standards and people's well-being. And as much as it might sound wishy-washy, I think people's well-being is something, especially, you know, in Melbourne with COVID, that people feel has really been abandoned in the past few years. And I think it's going to be the role of our public spaces once people start returning to them to create that sense of community again and build it from the ground up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, I mean, for me, asset management, I love asset management, but it's more about, well, what does that then offer the community, right? And even when we think about roads, for example, it's like, you know, you're offering a safe network for the community to get around, like the outcome of that, not necessarily that we want to fix potholes or whatever the case may be, or that we really do want to create spaces that people want, which, you know, again, might sound conceptual or whatever, like, don't we know that already? But, you know, you look at places and there's a certain number of things that you can check off, but there's really not. It comes down to the culture of the place and who's using it and how they're using it, and really bring in the data, not from like, you know, the people or, you know, the personal data, but it's just like, how is this space being used and what types of things are people wanting to do here and how do people feel when they're in spaces, I think is really key and something we don't really appreciate until we're in a space that we don't like. And we're like, oh, how did we get here?
Yeah, definitely.
Are you looking for an engaging speaker, MC or facilitator for your next big event? Then we've got you covered. Zoe is a go-to speaker, MC and conversation facilitator with a difference. She's a master at simplifying the complex and making connections you might never see. Book Zoe for your next event. Email hello@mysmart.community or head over to her speaker page, www.mysmart.community/speaking.
Thanks so much for listening to the Smart Community Podcast. Show notes for this episode and all other episodes are available on our website, mysmart.community/podcast. If you have any questions for us or any of our guests, you can email hello@mysmart.community. You can also find us on the socials. We are on LinkedIn and Twitter @SmartComHQ. That's com with 2 M's. If you are enjoying the podcast, please hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And we would love for you to leave us a rating and review at wherever you listen. This really helps us reach more ears and eyes, so thank you for your support. As always, we hope you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as we enjoyed making it.
The Smart Community Podcast is what you're looking for.